Alright, hi. The Electric Motor Division Engine Manual's Operating Manual Model 50, Model S7. General Motors Locomotives, Electric Motor Division, General Motors Corporation, LaGrange, Illinois, USA. Alright, Diesel Operating Manual for the number 23010. Number 2310 for the model F7 with the vapor car steam generator Alexo steam generator, fourth edition in March 1950. Manuals have been written to specify with the cover of the operation of the F7 locomotive, however it may be used with the operation of the other freight car type General Motors locomotive. The cover to the dynamic brake include. The manual was written to complete without coverage so that the locomotive is not equipped with a dynamic. The manual is written to complete with or without this coverage of the locomotive is not equipped with dynamic braking. Reference to the subject were eliminated with the detraction from the coverage of the locomotive. Electric Motor Division Introduction. The manual has been provided with the assist of the engine man with the operation of the Model F7 and locomotive that cover the basic standard equipment as well as the model most common and used in extra. The first three sections of this manual are devoted to the description of the locomotive, the normal operation of the road, special conditions, problems during operation. Section 4 consists of the general description, cooling, lubricating, oil systems, necessary information for the operation of the locomotive. Section 5 consists of the reprint of the TS2 on the road troubleshooting booklet, and Section 6 covers the steam generator. The principal articles, each of the section numbered consecutively, read the references each of the page, and articles and pages numbered in 100 series type of the number of page in the 300 series in Section 3, and any article numbered in 300. Charts A and B entitled the general arrangement of the drains and fillers, both A and B units follow Section 5. Alright, your electric motive operating manual, electric motor division, F7 diesel engine general data. Weight fully applied with the A unit 230,000 pounds, B unit 230,000 pounds. Fuel oil capacity per unit 1,200 gallons. Fuel oil capacity per engine 200. Cooling water system, cooling water capacity. A unit with a G valve level 230, B unit G valve level 215. Steam generator water tank capacities used in the vertical tank A and B unit. A unit 500 gallons, B unit 1,200 gallons. Hatch tank A and B unit 600 gallons. Tack under the 1,600 number steam generator 200 gallons. Gears ratio maximal permissible 65 and a half, 65, 12, 55 miles an hour, 65, 62, 15, 65 miles an hour, 61, 16, 71 miles an hour, 59, 18, 83 miles an hour, 58, 19, 89 miles an hour, 57, 20, 95 miles an hour, 56, 21, 102 miles per hour. Standing capacity per unit, 16 cubic feet. The number of the drivers, 4 pair. Of the wheel diameter, 40 inches. Weight on the driver is 100%. Truck centers at 30 inches. 30 feet, 0 inches. Truck ridge wheelbase 9 feet. Medium curve radius 63 inches. Central gravity above the rail approximately central minimum curve radius 274 feet. Center of the gravity above the rail approximately 63 inches. Blank beneath the coupler pulling face A unit and 50 foot 8 inches. B unit 50 foot. Weight over the horns 14 foot 11 and a quarter inches. Wheels outside of the grab irons 10 and 8 inches. Alright, your table of contents. Section 1, general description. Engine man controls engine instrument panel, switches, air brake equipment, miscellaneous equipment, engine room, normal operation. Section 2, preliminary handling a train, braking, miscellaneous operation instruction. Section 3, special equipment during and problems during operation, specific difficulties. Section 4, cooling, lubricating oil and fuel oil system, cooling system, lubricating oil system, fuel oil system. Section 5, on the road troubleshooting. Section 6, steam generator. Alright, Section 1, a description of the general location for the equipment of the basic F7 locomotive. Given in this section, locomotive consists of one or more units rated at 1,500 horsepower. Each of the units are equipped with operating with a cab designated with the A units without the cab of the B or booster units. The different combination of the units are depending on the horsepower and operation requirements. 100 diesel engine. Each unit has a 16-cylinder 2-cycle Bonnell 567 diesel and B diesel engine, which drive the main generator auxiliary described later. 101, main generator alternator. The main generator and alternator are assembly directly connected with the diesel engine crankshaft through the flexible coupling electrical separated. The sections are mounted on the same shaft designated with the model Z12 with the new 14. Z12 portion provided with the direct current with its nominal voltage with a 600 volt operation with the traction motor. D14 section built into the engine of the main generator frame is 3-phase 80 kilowatt alternating current generator which furnishes the power driven by the engine water cooling fans with the traction motor and blowers. 102, the traction motors. 4 traction motors are even in each of the unit multiplied mounted on one of each axle. Each of the motors is geared with the axle with the drive of the motor pinion. Gear meshing with the axle gear with a gear ratio of the 2 gears are expressed as the double number of the 60, as such as 6215. In this case, the axle gear has 62 teeth, while the pinion gear has 12 to 15 teeth. During the acceleration 4-step of the traction motor electrical circuit called the transition are the serials parallel, 2 the serials parallel shunt, 3 the parallel, and 4 the parallel shunt. These transition correctly compared roughly with the hooking up of the steam locomotive, possibly utilizing the full power of the output of the engines, taking place automatically operation. The locomotive's automatic transition position when operating the manual transition position. The engine man move the transition lever, the proper position transition indicator reaches the shifting point. During deceleration, the steps take place in the reverse order. Alright, 103, the reversing locomotive. The reversing of the locomotive is accomplished by moving the reverse lever of the control stand in the desired direction. The reverse lever must be moving the locomotive is standing still. 104, auxiliary equipment. The auxiliary equipment of the F7 equipment is driven entirely with the direct drive of the diesel engine with a separating of the electrical motors, no belt for the U-V locomotive. The 10 kilowatt auxiliary generators are driven from the diesel engine. It produces the direct current with approximately 74 volts to charge those of the storage batteries and supply of low voltage for the lighting of the control generator fields, excitation, fuel pump operation, etc. Air compressor is driven with flexible coupling over the arm shaft of the main generator is 3 cylinders and 2-stage compressor. An electrical driven blower is provided with each of the traction. These blowers supply each of the cooling air with the traction motor for the electrical driven fan with the supply with the engine cooling water radiators. Your engine man control. The 3 levers with the 2 brake valve that handles with the entire operational locomotive, the throttle reverse, and the transition lever when they mount into the control stand with the independent automatic brake valve handle. 105, the throttle lever. The lever controls the speed of the engine with the train speed and normal operation. The position of the throttle is shown with the illustrated in the indicator level. The throttle has the position idle, stop, idle, and running speeds 1 through 8. Stops can be obtained by the depressing of the emergency stop. Stops can be obtained by the depressing the emergency stop button on the end of the throttle and then pushing the throttle levers stop 1 step beyond the idle position. This stops all the engines. The idle position is far forward as the throttle can be moved in the depressing emergency stop button. Each running notch on these throttle increases the engine speed 75 RPMs or 275 RPMs to idle and 800 RPMs at full throttle. The mechanical interlock is preventing the throttle with being open for the more than 1 notch at a time, preventing the rough terrain handling. The throttle may be closed with complete with one motion, and with the emergency, this should be closed with only 1 notch at a time in the normal operation. Or 106, the reverse lever. The reverse lever that can be removed with the control stand neutral position. The lock for the operating controls and control stand. The reverse lever of the neutral position for the power circuit will not close. 107, the transition lever. The lever on the level of the left side of the control stand is position shown by the illustrated indicator of the control stand. The locomotive is started with the transition lever in the number 1 position advantage of the speed indicators. Alright, your engine man controls, engine man control figure. 1's at the top, it's the automatic brake valve. 2 is in the full release selector cock. 3 for service position cocks. 4 where is 4? I don't see 4. 4 instrument panel light switch. 5 safety control valve cock. 6 brake valve cut out cock. 7 safety control foot pedal. 8 is the rotor air valve. 9 cab heater steam valve. 10 reverser level. 11 transitioner level and transitioner lever. 12 speed recorders. 13 horn cords. Load transition indicated meter. 15 throttle lever. 16 heat switch. 17 windshield wiper valve with equalizing reservoir, main reservoir air gauge. 18 19 brake pipe and brake cylinder air gauge. 21 bell valve. 22 engine man's watch receptacle. 24 wheel slip indicator light. 25 dynamic brake warning light and positive control switch open light. 26. Alright, according to the indicator of the transition indicator of the meter of the instrument panel, the same manner of the speed, the decrease of the grade of the transition level, the return of the position as the transition meter indicates on the locomotive is equipped with the automatic transition. The transition lever displayed for the number 1 position is not even the effective change of the traction motor hookup. When the transition lever is moved, the opposition locomotive is equipped with the dynamic brake for the braking contactor to close the end of the cam switch is moved to the 2 position, partially establishing the brake circuit. When the lever is moved in the B position with the battery field contactor closed with exciting with the field with all generators with each other is level to move to the farther to the right B with the excitation increase with increased braking effort. 108. Dynamic braking. Some of the locomotives are equipped with the dynamic braking of the traction motor, armature for the gear, for the axle. They are running at all times with the train. It's moving in the dynamic braking position of the motor. You with the generators returning the train. The current is generated with the dissipated but in grids cooled with one motor driving fan located near the top of the car body. The grid cooling fan motor receives the current and then generated by the traction motor. 109. Mechanical interlocking with the control. The lever on the control stand are unlocked so that the reverse lever can only be operated only with the transition lever, the number 1 and or off position and throttle idle. The reverse lever can only be removed from the control stand only when the transition lever is in the off position and throttle idle. 3. The throttle can be moved to stop with any of the position, transition, reverse, or level. 4. The transition lever can be moved to 2 to 3 position or 3 to 2 position with the throttle in 7th and 8th running position. Alright, your Engnemen'S instrument panel. The instrument panel contains the gauges, the lights indicate with the general guide the Engnemen'S with the proper operation of the locomotive. The air gauge. These are standard air gauges. Each of the gauges is clearly labeled in the function. Alright, this shows the transition loading indicator meter with the amperage of the DC Model F7 continuous 825 amps, like throttle 1, 2, 3, 4. Transition load indicator of the meter accurately guide the load with the locomotive. Observing the manual transition should be frequently observed with the transition made with the proper time, overloading the equipment avoided. The dial meter is gradually into the amperes starting at 0 left to the left and 100,000 amperes to the extreme right. The 4 transition zones are safe operating zones, coal colored green, and the overload zone colored yellow. A red diamond and black line at the 825 amperes show the maximum continuous current rating of the red triangle at 600 amperes. Shows the maximum permissible current with using the dynamic brakes. The white pointer moved across the dial to indicate the amount of traction motor amperes. The plate is mounted with a meter dialing showing the time permissible to operate with the different stages of overload. Short time overload ratings are cumulative. Alright, wheel slip light. The light indicates that the locomotive wheels of slipping with the throttle should be reduced within 1 or more notches to stop the slipping while the wheel slip light does not flash with the transition made with the series parallel to the parallel. Back to the series parallel, it did with the order locomotives. The light should be flashed consistently during the transition. This condition should be reported. Alright, dynamic warning light. If used, the dynamic braking is any of the units overload light with the indicator of the brake should be reduced. Switches. Engnemen'S control push button switch box is located within the side window with the Engnemen'S station is controlled with the switches light with the accessory lights. The control light and accessory circuit with the switches are clearly labeled and respectively used. Figure 1-3. The distribution panel is located within the side of the electrical cabinet with the engine room with the name number of the switches are used to be closed during the normal operation. Your PC switch. Your pneumatic control switch is an operated with electrical switch. The switch is trip penalty application for the air brakes. Other than locomotives, emergency application for the brakes. Also with the pneumatic control switch. When they switch to trip, it automatically reduces the speed of the engine to idle and shuts off all the fuel pumps and the throttles in the 5th and 6th notch. With the pneumatic control switch is trip, the engine will stop. Some of the locomotives are equipped with the indicating light with the show that the switch trip, then reset the throttle and will return to idle. Brakes recovered. To reset the switch and the throttle of the master return the idle, then the brake recovered when it has been accomplished. The pneumatic control switch will reset, indicating the light will go out. Alright, air brake equipment. The 24RL brake equipment is normally used on the F7 locomotive. The air brake gauge is located with the instrument panel with the engine with the general cab air brake equipment that consists of the automatic brake valve, the independent brake valve, the K2A rotary valve, the rotary air valve, manually operated valve with the 4-position located with the right with the controller shown in figure 1-1 with the automatic brake valve with the handle it has 6 positions: release, running, first, surface, lap, service, and emergency. Maybe with the rigid handle type, the automatic brake with the valve handle with the hinge and rigid or hinge handle to remove the running position. The handle should be removed with a double cab locomotive operated from the opposite end. But the hinge handle is required for the make required by railroad to use to suppress safety control with a foot pedal with a depressing handle with a horizontal position. On some railroads, the sanding ball provides the sanding and further depressing of the handle. Alright, the brake valve figure 414 also contains the brake valve cutout located with the filling with a piece of the portion safety control cock located on the surface of the application portion and first surface position cock and the full release sector cock. Your independent brake valve, the S40F, the independent brake valve handle with a 2-position release and full application for the application of the valve with the between the 2 positions, the brake valve of the self-lapping type of the automatically lap off the flow of the maintained with the brake cylinder when the application pressure reaches the valve with the value can correspond with the position of the brake valve handle with the application zone. Release the locomotive that the automatic application for the defined with the depression of the independent brake valve of the handle in the release position. 117, the K2A rotary valve. The 4-position of the K2A rotary valve has a freight lap, passenger lap, and passenger operating with the handling of those valves. 118, safety control foot pedal. The safety control foot pedal is located with the front of the engine man with the seat with the locomotive equipped with the DS24H brake valve handling the hinge automatic brake valve handle with the hand operated for the alternating control with the dispress sufficiently just in contact with the sanding ball. Either the pedal or the automatic brake valve handle that must be compressed to be pressed at all times except when the locomotive is stopped. Locomotive brakes are applied. 30 pounds or more brake cylinder pressure from the bolt with the foot pedal automatic brake valve will release at the same time. A penalty application of the brake will result. Miscellaneous equipment, 119 sanding valve. When the locomotive is equipped with a hinge automatic brake valve handle that is accomplished with the depressing of the lever beyond with the safety control pressure previously described with the app movement that operates the sanding ball which operates the port of the supply air sanding equipment on locomotives that have the rigid automatic brake valve and independent sanding valve that install the levers operated by pushing the lever forward until the latches. Alright, you show your cutout handle and the 24RL brake, all types of service. Alright, your speed recorder locomotive over speed for the control. The speed recorder is located at the front of the control stand with a hydraulically operated speed indicator with a speed recording tape with an odometer driven from a number 1 axle with the A unit through the flexible cable to contain with the maximum speed device with which to initiate the full service application with the brake for the type of the pneumatic control switch. When the maximum speed setting will exceed with the sum of the railroads instead of the full service application for the brakes from the going into the emergency. 120, unit selector switch, dynamic brake. The unit selector switch located with the engine man with the instrument panel with the 4 positions should be set with the corresponding number of the units making up the locomotive. The unit selector should be set before leaving the maintenance point with one or more engines that should be isolated en route with the switch must be notified, not be changed until the time is switched and the chain of the locomotive consists of the is changed. 121, windshield wiper. The windshield wiper, the control of the valve, the one which is located with the engine man instrument panel, one with the panel with the fireman side with the cable. The wind wipers operate independently on each other. The wipers should not be run on the dry window as the dirt over the glass blade may scratch the glass. 122 horn valve. The horns are operated with the air valve of the control with the pull cords above the control stand. The horn shutoff valve is located in the front. Number 2 main reserve locomotive valve. The locomotive signal until under the locomotive floor with the pilot over the left side operated with the air valve located with the engine man station. The bell shutoff valve is located with the left side of the front end of the number 2 main reservoir. 124 cab heater. The cab heater is located with each side of the cab of the water with the engine cooling of the water system path of the heater with the motor of the fans driven the articulating air circulation flow water. The heater is controlled with the valve supplying with located over the engine room. This valve must keep it open at all times. The freezing of the weather. The output of the heater with the vary with the cab heater switches. Vary with the use of the cab heater switch. The switches have the 4 positions 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and the 3 different motor speeds. If the engine is in the lead unit with a shut down with the freezing weather, steam may be made with the the cab heaters. Defroster each side of the cab is located with the defroster motor with a fan switch below with the air of the inside of the front of the cab windows. Both of the motors are turned on and off with the one defroster switch with the control button switch box. Alright, 126 classification and lights. Permanently fixed the class clear bullseye provided with each side of the nose of the behind the bullseye with a small compartment contained with the classification light bulb with the controlled lens. The green lens is provided each compartment, which must be provided with the position of the bulb with the bullseye with the accomplish for the locating of the pin to move the desired limit into the position into play for the looking and the locking pin for play for the lenses accessible with the inside of the nose section through the hinge doors and compartment with the red and green lens with the one on the outside of the permanent full bullseye light will show the white light and making 3 colors available. Or your engine room. The two ends of the engine room are designated front and rear of the shown figure 1.5 of the rear and identified with the cylinder's location with the side of the engine for the switch, or referred to with the number of the governing water pumps and lubricating oil pumps added to the front end of the blowers and oil separators generators the mount of the rear end. Generator is the rear end, front end is the governor is on the front end, left side, right side, 1 and 2 banks. The engine is placed so that the rear end is toward the front end when the operating with the normal forward direction. 127, the engine control instrument panel with the panel with the mount with the frame with the support of the engine control cooling water tank with the near with the governor end of the engine power plant with the engine control instrumental plans mount with the lube oil pressure for the switch gauge with the fuel tank with the gauge for the start stop of the fuel pump the isolation switch. 128, isolation switch. The switch is the 2 position start with the handle horizontal with the running hand pointing the down vertically with the start position with the power plant disconnect with the control circuit with the engine is reduced the idle speed, but the engine will remain and the idle speed will not respond. The throttle control the power contactor electrical control circuit cabinet will operate with a transition lever then move with the dynamic braking unit with the exert no retarding effect. The alternating failure alarm is inoperative if the start and stop buttons are effective only when the isolation switch is in the start position. R129, the governor speed and safety control of the engine is equipped with the woodward governor which include with the electrical hydraulic governor speed with the control on the load or over the during transition. In the case of all the low oil pressure high vacuum on the suction side of the lube oil pump of the engine governor will stop at the engine with the alarm bells will sound with the unit of the locomotive with the yellow low oil or the blue alternate failure signal light will show the unit with the effect of the governor safety control stop at the engine push button with the front of the governor housing movement that moves approximately 3/8 of an inch exposing the red band around the shaft of the button with the governor reset with the button push button must be pressed to extinguish the low oil alarm. The alarm lights isolation should be moved at the start of the position. Extinguish the alternator failure alarm lights. Both action necessary to stop the alarm bell with the push button. It will not trip the engine. Start with the do in the place for the throttle. Emergency stop pushing and operating of the manual shaft. Control lever. Tripping over the ground and protective the relay with the throttles and running of the 5 or 6 U for the stop position. Normal shutdown instance for the low oil alarm lights will not light by alternator failures along with the function step of the stop button to serve as the warning engine stop of the engine with the stop of the governor control action the push button with the reset of the engine with the BB start with the warning of the engine start with the running ideal of the governor and stop the engine with the approximately 40 seconds when the condition still exists with the cause of the original shutdown time delay provided to allow. Check to determine the cause of the shutdown. How the ever the intemp to the made with the run the engine above the idle speed with the delay period. The governor will stop the engine, but there should be 1 oil pressure, low oil pump suction highlight. 130, your electrical control cabinet. Electrical control cabinet contains various contactor relays, other equipment necessary for the electrical and electric pneumatic control unit. 3131, control air pressure regulator. The control air for the operating of the power contactor reverser cam supplied with the main reservoir reduced to 80 plus plus or minus 3 pounds by controlling air pressure regulator in the cab behind the steps leading of the operating cab on the right side of the engine man standing side of the locomotive with the pressure indicating the gauge of the distribution light with just been main battery switch. 132, load regulator. Load regulator located diagonally below the engine control panel with the movement of the control of the pilot valve with the dump of the valve of the engine governor. Load regulator with the control of the loading of the main generator with the automatically contained with the constant horsepower output with the horsepower each throttle throughout the entire range of the engine speed. Lay shaft manual control lever. The lay shaft manual control lever attached to the engine with the injector lay shaft left of the corner of the engine with the accessible with the standing with the engine control panel with the maybe you with the engine shut down the engine manually bring the engine speed to the idle mode and take the engine offline. Also use the increase the engine speed gradually putting an engine on the line when the locomotive is under power. 134, indicators gauge for the protective device of the engine is started with the entire operation of the locomotive with the controls with the switches may be controlled by the cab of the protective device, alarm bell, single light installed with the locomotive to provide maximum protection. With the equivalent number of the indicators engaged with the protective device should be observed with the inspection from the engine room. An additional protective device and indicators installed with the locomotive, which should be checked for abnormal operation trouble encountered. 135, engine overspeed trip of the engine speed, owing the speeds 910 RPM of the engine overspeed device. Look on the front of the engine, behind the engine cover there, figure 510, section 5, will trip and then bring the engine to stop. 136, the handbrake. The handbrake is located by the engine room on the right side of the air compressor, both in the A, B unit. The set of the brakes for the foot pedal with the hold the foot pedal down, turn the wheel as far as it will go. To release the brakes, the van for the wheel with the release of the foot pedal latch left on the go wheel. Brakes for the wheel without the foot pedal will rotate with the wheels release direction with against the friction locks before moving the locomotive. Be sure the brakes are completely released whenever any one of the following applied with locomotive trucks. The handbrake should be applied. Section 2, normal operation.